McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop. Season 4, Episode 3. God and the Devil in Love. October 18th, 1921, continued. Rupert, Wrath, and I used the symbol of the eye to teleport out of the cell and directly to the mouth of the tunnel. When we arrived, the vines in front of us swayed and trembled, miserable at the sight of Wrath. "Are you sure we shouldn't stay back in the cell?" I asked Rupert. "Once we got all the way through the vines," Rupert said, "Scotland decided it would be better to have you and Wrath wait at the entrance, rather than back in the cell. That way, if danger springs up, you can get up and out, without waiting for us." "I don't like the idea of leaving you three behind," I said. "This is nonsense," Wrath said. "I know where the guards sit. I know the underground prison. I'm going to come with you." "You're going to come with us?" Rupert exclaimed. "Through the vines?" "Well, naturally, if I'm going to reach the trap door," Wrath said. "But," Rupert spluttered, "if you were just going to come with us, why did you make Scotland and I fend off an army of man-eating plants with only some blood on a handkerchief? They nearly nipped my shoulder off a bunch of times. You're as bloody as all get out. If you were going to come, you could have just walked in front." "Oh, no," Wrath said pleasantly. "It's a pity I didn't think of that before." Rupert glared at Wrath, and I tried not to laugh. "Rupert, I'm so glad you're all right. Wrath, are you sure you want to come? What if you pass out along the way and we have to drag you?" "Then you can roll me onto an eye symbol and teleport me out," Wrath said. "I don't think they work that way," I said. "I want to come," Wrath said. "I'm not leaving until Mr. McGillicuddy comes with us." Rupert nodded. "All right, well. Walk in front, will you? Scotland is keeping the vines at bay around the trap door." Wrath stepped out into the maze of vines, and sure enough, they curled away as he approached, backing up a distance of 20 feet. Within a few strides, we could see Scotland ahead, crouched on the trap door with the bloody handkerchief beside her. She was busily drawing on the ground with her finger. We hurried up to her. She looked up in surprise at all the vines. They curled so far backwards it felt like we were now in a conservatory dome. "Wrath," Scotland said, "why didn't you suggest this before?" "I didn't think of it," Wrath said, with a twinkle in his eye. Then he added, "Neither did you." Scotland arched an eyebrow. "Fair. Are you coming down?" "I am," Wrath said. "Is he going to pass out?" I asked. Wrath glared at me. Scotland stood up. "No, his wounds aren't that bad. Burns, yes. Blood loss, no. But we do need to hurry, for every reason imaginable. Let's go down. Maud, before we go, I want you to know that I was experimenting with the magic jelly just now, and for whatever reason, we can't use the eye symbols to teleport straight out of here. We'll have to use the front door, and exit using the murder object, just like traditionalists." "I wish the spell that keeps us from using the eyes would break," I said. I felt a bit silly, but Scotland, seeing what I was up to, tapped the eye again. Still nothing. She looked at me in dismay. "All right," I said. I was disturbed. The eye symbols, so far, had never had a limit. They'd rescued me from unknown time and space in the world of the Whiskalets. This meant, and I do think I'm thinking this through logically, that the night enthusiasts, at least at one point, had known all about Mara's eye symbols, because they had made their prison proof against them. Not when it came from moving to place within the prison, of course, but they'd somehow blocked this type of magic from getting anyone out. It meant that the magic jelly had limitations, and it made me worry that Ariana would soon find a way to keep us out of everything. At least today, when we escaped, we would still be able to use the front door. "Down we go," Wrath sang, and with that, we opened the trap door. It was a 3-foot drop to an iron staircase. I dropped first, expecting to be shot at, but the dim hallway in front of me was empty. "All clear so far," I hissed. Scotland dropped down next, and as she did, Wrath whispered, "Are you sure, Maud?" The guards are normally right there. No guards yet, I said. That was a bad sign. What were they doing? All getting coffee at the same time? Escorting Mr. McGillicuddy somewhere. Rupert, Scotland, and Rath soon joined me in the lower hallway. We crept forward as quickly as we could. He's in cell 16, Rath said. Are there any other prisoners in here we should be setting free while we're at it? I said. No, Rath said. The night enthusiasts don't keep prisoners around for very long. I shivered as I continued. If things went poorly with me, I could end up here, and I wouldn't be able to use wishes or an eye symbol to escape. As we walked, I waited for guards to appear, but I saw no one. The hallways echoed, empty. Suddenly, "Ooh," Rath said, and tumbled. Rupert caught him just in time and yanked Rath's arm over his shoulder. "Lean on me," Rupert said tensely to Rath, "and don't pass out." A minute later, we found Mr. McGillicuddy's cell. He lay on a cot, not asleep, but not lucid either. We made our way inside, and Scotland hefted Mr. McGillicuddy up, supporting his arm around her neck. "You don't suppose," I said, looking at Scotland, "that not only did Ariana tell us the location of the prison, she also somehow made sure all the guards would be gone?" Scotland shook her head. "I fear that much generosity surpasses my suspension of disbelief, Maud. I'm still waiting for a sinister explanation." We drew an eye symbol in Mr. McGillicuddy's cell, then used it to teleport straight to the front door. From there, we teleported back out through the statue of the angel with the bleeding eye, finding ourselves once more on the quiet and dusty stage. "Lean on me, Mr. McGillicuddy," Scotland said. "That's it." My heart thumped, high in my chest. I glanced around the dark theatre. I was the only one not supporting a prisoner. As I glanced back into the wings, I saw a human shape, the swirl of a plain brown skirt, as someone stepped back into the shadows. Their shoulders were hunched, sullen. "Scotland," I said, "go back with Rath and Mr. McGillicuddy. I'll meet the four of you there soon, I promise." "Maud," Scotland said. She stared at me in dismay. "Are you sure?" "Completely," I said. The inside of my mouth felt dry again. My heart seemed to have changed from heartbeats into an endless guitar string quiver. "Maud," Rupert said. Rath groaned into his shoulder. "Whatever you're about to do, don't do it." "I'm sorry," I said. "I think I need to." Scotland and Rupert looked at each other, uneasy. "They're in pain," I snapped. "Just go." "Take the lantern at least," Scotland said, and she fairly shoved it at me. With a regretful glance back at me, Scotland and Rupert teleported with Rath and Mr. McGillicuddy. Suddenly, they were gone. Suddenly, I was alone in the theatre, and their presence was like a dream, and I wondered what was going to happen to me next. I reached into my pocket and wanted to grab hold of something. Perhaps subconsciously I wanted a pistol, but all I had was a stubby pencil, so I gripped that. Once again, I found myself wishing for my china eye, the thing that had made me a magic unusual. But it had vanished, you remember, without an explanation. I wanted to get it back, but it was at the end of a long list of disasters I needed to solve. First on the list was speaking to the person in the shadows. I scurried closer to the curtain gap, where I saw the figure watching, holding the lantern as I went. It cast a spinning circle of light around my feet. As my footsteps drew nearer, I heard the person shuffle back. Not a magic unusual, then. A magic unusual would just be able to teleport away, if they didn't want me to see them. I popped my head around and squinted into the darkness. Ariana's features were lit by the light of my lantern. "Hello," she said. I blinked at her. I didn't know what to say, so all I said was, "Why didn't you teleport away just now?" "Well, you're not going to shoot me, are you?" she said. "Never," I said. We stared at each other. like children deciding if they could make friends with a stranger at the park. "Are you going to turn me into the night enthusiasts?" I asked. "Why would I?" Ariana said. "I let them go, didn't I?" I stared at her, my heart swelling and throbbing like it was sick. "Did you? Did you really? Is there another twist somewhere?" "They're really free," Ariana said. I wanted to hug her suddenly, and I knew that didn't make sense. I think I was overwhelmed by the fact that she really had let them go. It meant she wasn't sure who she was yet, that there was still a chance that she might not be my enemy forever. We stood there awkwardly, and I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for a burly night enthusiast to come out of the shadows, snarl, handcuff me, and say, "Surprise!" Into the silence, Ariana suddenly muttered, "Did you mean what you said before? About wanting to end up with me?" It was out. Now was not the time to become a selfish turtle, to curl into myself and pretend that I was normal and proper and what everybody else wanted me to be. I was mad, improper, bright, and perhaps sinful. I hadn't worked all of that out yet. "I was never friends with a magic unusual before you," I said. "I've also never been in love with a woman before you, but I am. I mean, I've never been in love before at all, so I'm not sure how in love with you I am, but I think..." "It's all right, Maud," Ariana said. "I know what you're trying to tell me. I've been attracted to women all my life." "You have," I said. I felt funny, pushy, like even admitting this out loud was too much. Like it would clang in someone's ears and make them say, "Ugh, not again. Ugh, too much. Leave me alone. I don't want to hear about this. Feel what you want, but leave me out of it. Please leave this out of the story." But I can't leave it out. Diary, it is completely true. It is the most true thing I have ever written, of myself, of my real reality, of the pieces of myself that filter down into this narrative. When I started this adventure, I was depressed and whimsical and squeamish, and now I have found that I am brave, surrounded by community. But more than anything, I am capable of falling in love with both men and women. How could I keep it out of these pages when it is so true and personal? When Ariana was one of many clues that first brought it to my attention. "I did mean it," I said. "I have known I liked boys all my life, but apparently I can fall in love with women too." "Is that a real thing? I mean, does that even happen?" "Yes, silly," Ariana said. "People fall in love with men and women at the same time all the time." "Oh," I said. She stared at me, her face twisted. She seemed like she was about to say something tender, and then she flinched. She said instead, "Do you ever feel like you and I are God and the devil, and that we accidentally fell in love?" I laughed. "I don't think either of us is quite that good or evil or two-dimensional, Ariana." "Still," she said, "we're at war now. We stand for completely different things. Am I right in thinking you've become the leader, more or less, of your little rag-taggled band? And I've become the leader of the night enthusiasts. We are destined to clash. You know, when I swore to never reveal the location of the secret basement, you said you'd kill me if I told. Do you ever wonder if that's what all of this is leading up to? You and me, a final fight, where one of us gets stabbed and holds the other one blubbering as they die?" I shivered. "I am not going to stab you." "Yes, well, maybe I'm going to stab you." "No, my own little devil," I said. "I am determined that this story is going to end very differently. So check back in with me next year." Our gazes hardened. "I'm getting angry again," Ariana said. "I shouldn't do this, you know. Fraternize with you. It makes me feel weak. It makes me weak. I should be bringing you to them on a silver platter." "I suppose I ought to go, then," I said. "Yes," Ariana said. I stepped away from her, as if I needed to walk away before teleporting. I wanted to announce my departure, give her one last chance to stab me in the back. Maud, Ariana said. Yes, I said. Don't try to find me again. Don't come near me again. Take the ones who belong to the pawn shop and hide in another time. Don't try to dominate 1921 again. Take yourselves out of harm's way, because the night enthusiasts have won. It is our world now, our timeline. If you want to survive somewhere where you're out of my way, be my guest. If you inconvenience us at all anymore, well, come on, don't be stupid. We are clearly stronger, and you will get squashed. Don't do it. Don't risk it. No one wants you getting killed. I said. This is the only warning I'll give you, Ariana said. It is over. We have won. We've got your leader, and we've got your base. Do your followers the only favor you have left, and leave them wherever you've hidden them. I'm not malicious, and I'm not vindictive. I won't come after you, if you leave us all alone. And, I said, what are you going to do with the world now that you've gotten it? If I'm not allowed to take back 1921, what will you do with 1921 now that you've got it? It's none of your business, Ariana said. That's the whole point. It isn't your world, and it isn't your time anymore. Stay out of it, and I won't have to stab you in the back. Ariana was an irritating clownfish. I'd always prided myself as a girl on not having terrible taste in men, but apparently I had terrible taste in women. And if I don't, I said. I got your leader once, and I can do it again. And this time I'll kill them, Ariana said. I wasn't sure if she was referring to Mr. McGillicuddy or me. I stepped away from her. Got it, I said. Leave you alone, never come back, or me and my friends will die. Precisely, Ariana said. You're no good for me. I think it's the other way around, love, I said. I mean you're no good for my ambition, Melinda Maudie Merkel, Ariana said. Now get lost. I snorted. I watched as Ariana teleported out of the theatre, and as soon as she vanished, I grinned. I have been studying skull spells in my spare time, diary. You know skull spells. It's how a magic unusual can trace the next teleportation location of someone else. You can cast a skull spell just by pointing your pinky finger in the direction of the person's mind and thinking, Rubador. I know it doesn't make any sense, but I didn't write it. I knew I'd cast the skull spell correctly before Ariana left. That meant wherever she was headed, I now had that location written down in a small notebook at home. I could follow. Ariana had told me to leave her alone, but too bad. I had to get that magic jelly back from her, to prevent her from using it, and I had to find a way to rescue Noble James. That meant finding Raster, who was tracking Noble across time and space. That meant a little infiltration into wherever the night enthusiasts were staying now. We hope you've enjoyed Season 4, Episode 3, God and the Devil in Love, of McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop. McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop is written and performed by Minerva Sweeney Wren, all rights reserved. Please subscribe, share it with your friends, and visit minervasweeneywren.com for more. The most impactful way to support McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop is to simply follow Minerva Sweeney Wren at Meg Macaulay Inc. on Instagram and Twitter. Please consider giving $1 a month at patreon.com/SweeneyWren to unlock the upcoming mystery, The Dark and Decrepit Planet of Spin. All links are in the description of this episode. McGillicuddy and Murder's Pawn Shop will continue in 2 weeks with Season 4, Episode 4, The Gorisby Hotel.